here we are. We have all of the elements that I just cut out, a couple from the first video where I ripped it up and I felt that those fit the color palette that I'm using. So right now I'm going to go ahead and go through how to layer your image so that you can put all of these together in a way that really brings them out, because right now you can see it's all arranged from the bright yellow over here into the dark over here, and I want to balance this all out so that it keeps your attention when you're looking at it, encourages you to explore, because right now you don't know what to look at. It's too much. It's obviously not even started yet, but the idea here is before we go ahead and start building pieces with backgrounds, this allows us to choose our own pattern with it. We don't have to match something that already exists. We can just focus on making what we have work. So I'm going to clear all of this out, and then I'm going to show you how I put this together and put it on a background so that we can have a completed collage. And when I am building up complex pieces, not the simple ones the simple one that I did at first, it requires a lot more planning. You have to bring some parts in and specially cut them so that they can fit other pieces. And my first example of that is right here. I cut this piece so that there are two flaps in it. And the reason I did that is because I want to combine these layers. So you see that flap that I did there allows me to choose where I want that background. There's a good contrast between her hair and that face, and blocking out those people in the picture underneath, but I want to keep the cloud in the image, which is why I closed off. So now when I adjust it so that everything is just right, I get a kind of beam of light coming out of the cloud, and that's the first thing that I am going to glue. The way I'm going to do that is to do it in very small stages instead of gluing the whole piece like I did before. I'm going to turn this so that I can reach underneath, pull back the head, and just put glue behind where the head will be. That's the start of our gluing process. That will keep that level with her eye safe. But now we have to pull it out again, and now we glue the entire back of this, and you have to be very careful using the backs of your fingers, or if you have liquid glue, you can just paint on while you lightly hold it. But for the tools I have and the methods that I use, I walk my paper along the glue stick. Now, I don't want that to touch yet until I have it folded into the correct position. Alright, that one folded down, and now that one did. So now I want to make sure everything is even by flattening it out. And that's one of the biggest keys, is between each step making sure that you flatten everything down and make sure that it works. And in between layers sometimes things will look a little bit strange because you don't have the piece behind it to keep it from moving. So that will be fixed in the future, but for now we continue along this bottom lip, and there is a little bit of glue overlap, which is different from other types of or other methods which I use. So that, despite me wanting to make sure I know every single layer from the bottom up, I know I want this piece to always look like this. So that means I want to set it up first because this is the core of my image. This is what I think is the most interesting. Now, I want to give that a frame, and so now I'm starting to work down and backwards. I've got these pieces that all help make up what I plan on doing. So, I have dark elements right now, and those I want to not clash, so the way I'm going to do that is by using that yellow that I cut out as a way to bridge the gap. But right now this top piece doesn't look very good, so I am going to use my text here to extend away and block that. And you notice that I'm not gluing yet because this was the one thing I was sure of in my picture. I don't want to put anything else down with glue until I'm sure of the rest of it. I want to build out because right now this is a good shape, so I want to build away from it to fill it in. So, for example, I can give it a further background. And again, you have to keep in mind where everything is going to fit when you put it together, because you have to do it in order or else it won't work. of course it's gonna jump around a bit as you're laying out, but that's not the most important part. The most important part is adjusting it until you like where everything is, because then you have to pick it up one by one and make sure you know exactly how to put it back together again. And that's where all of the planning that you need to do in collage art comes in. And sometimes this bit gets a bit fiddly, but this is what it looks like when I'm making a piece. This, I feel, brings in the shape of the ground there, and it becomes a way to make the image 3D. So I like that there. And it makes it appear as if she's coming out of these sides even though she's in front of them. And that's what I'm talking about, having the different colors to contrast and develop how you want to represent the image. I have that torn piece that I made earlier, which I'm going to incorporate into the top, and I'll show it later when I'm gluing it. And the other side of that piece, I think, will work in this direction if I get it at the right angle. What that'll let me do is even out the image, because right now it's farther to that side. And so if I get this underneath, it evens out the shapes a lot. And because I have some empty spaces, I might want to fill them in. And so again, I'm going even deeper and farther down the image. And again, this is where it gets really complicated, is keeping track of everything's position. Right now, I think this is getting close to where I want it to be. I have a couple of more pieces that I can use. There's this one, and this one that caught my eye when I was picking, but I'm not sure that they fit exactly what I want out of this image. So to check on that, what I'll do is I will begin to just hover over the image and see if any specific sides work well for this. And I think this, for example, is too bright. It pulls away from that central area, but this I feel like is a good way to cover up some of that color and bring you back into this central image. So that's where I want to go with that. This was a fun little piece to cut out, but I'm not quite sure if it fits what I want to do. My thought was to put it over here, but I feel like that will stick out a little bit too much. But maybe if I tuck that in, I can get that there. I think it needs to be a little bit lower. Yeah, I think that actually works as long as everything is lined up. And then I have one last piece that I'm going to check and see if I feel like it fits. And you notice I'm still kind of trying to keep everything memorized. Now, can this, it's sticky. No. Yes. That doubles the triangle shape there, and I really like that. So what I think I'm going to do is call this my final image. But now, to get all the way down, I have to separate this into pieces, just like this first one that I made. I have to separate it in a way that I can remember where everything goes, but it's not too many pieces to glue at once. So, my idea for that is this, 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 and this have to be together because they have to be at these exact points that I'm laying them out, or else they won't stick together. These two have to be together because if they're not exact, the colors don't match up. So these two need to go together. And so what you do over time is you build up which connections have to be together. This one, because I want to make it align with a shape, that has to go together. But that's the only part that I need to go on that. This I can glue on top of, it doesn't have to be exact. These, though, need to be in parts. And that part has to go on last, because that is between this and the top of that, and I'm not going to know where this is placed until I combine the whole thing. So, I'm going to back up a bit and do these one at a time. I'm going to start on top again, or I'm going to start actually with the simplest to glue pieces. We have a single arc. That is not hard, is it? But what that does is that gives me a method by which to move this piece, have it finished and out of the way, and I don't have to worry about it anymore. All I have to do is set it up, and then it's going to be good for the rest of the time I'm working. I don't have to worry about it ever again. This, same thing. If I get it right now, I don't have to worry about it again, because it'll just go right on at the end. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and glue. Another thing that I often do is set up one side of my cutting board as a cutting surface and another side as a gluing surface. Right now I'm using it as a little bit of both, but that's because I'm only doing one project at a time right now, and that means I have a lot more time in between to make sure that I'm getting the old glue off and keeping everything stable. That's now set up to where it's a single image. Now I want to go back to the core. This has to be exact. I want this wording to meet this. So, first of all, I need to glue everything up to this line. If I do that, and use this as a guide to how low, so right there, I know exactly what needs to be covered in glue, and I can start layering on what I'm doing, and the same techniques will work in any time when you want to be precise. You just have to remember the order that you're putting everything down. Like I said, make sure you don't have glue stuck on your table, on your cutting board, whatever you're using. And I want this to end up in the middle of the letters as well. So that is even. And now I want to make sure it's all flattened out. Like I said, that was going to flatten her face and keep the image smooth. And now I want to go ahead and glue this. This, I can use the little bit of overlap on glue that I already have to line up the bottom here, and then I lift it up afterwards to finish the gluing process. I'm noticing some shiny bits here, and that's good. That lets me know where there's glue that needs to be flattened out. And you just go in one direction as you're trying to smooth it all out so it's not completely rippled. Again, I'm someone who likes the look of process. I like showing where I've scraped it, where I've glued it. So depending on how much you like that look, or you prefer it look like it was done on a computer, because you can get as precise as you want with this and not have any overlap at all and have everything cut perfect, or you can remember that part of what you're doing is moving things around with your hand. So you want to be able to see the ways that your hands shake and mess things up a little bit, and it makes it unique to you. No one does the exact same process as you. This, for now, is going to use just a very light dab of glue because there's only a tiny little bit of overlap there. But that will get complete later as we have more area to glue. But for now, we just want to make sure that it's lined up. It looks like it's coming straight out of her, and that's where we're going to leave this piece for now. Now, we want to build this up, but this may require going back and forth between these two parts. So I think we will leave this section till last and use it to balance out everything else we're doing. So, with that in mind, what we can start doing is setting up one side, and then we know where the other side needs to go just by what we do with this side. So this is something that we will want to align with our base image. We want to build out to the side of this. So now that we have an idea of how to do that, I don't like that white there, so the best thing I think for me to do is use that as my upper limit, and I'm using that as my left and right limit, that row right there. So now I know exactly where I want it. Now I go back to doing things piece by piece. So I carefully lift, start gluing along the side, and this I actually allow for a little bit of overlap while I'm trying to figure out, because if it moves, that overlap allows me to recenter it and get it back to where I want it to be. Because I can adjust on that glue until it's just how I want it. Now I'll glue this last section, close it up, and then I will again add the next portion, and this portion will be easier if I do it on the back, and I'm probably going to have a break right after I glue this so that I can switch the video to another file. So I'm just going to keep applying glue to this. We don't want too many flecks because those do cause the glue to ripple, and that's something that we do have to be careful about, is making sure that our glue doesn't get so caught up on here, and instead make sure that there's just enough to get it attached really well, but not so much that it causes problems when we try to make it flat. And I think this is just about the right amount. And again, I'm smoothing out my dips, and I will call this video done here and start on the last portions of the image afterwards.